What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Streckbine, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2 days away from the beginning of training camp. The season is almost here. We are less than 2 weeks before the first preseason game, and we are 48 hours away from TJ Watt, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, and many others heading to St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. We're fired up. We're diving into players to watch, bubble guys, sleepers, position battles, the whole nine as we prepare for training camp 2025. And with that one, I hope you're feeling well over in good old Denver, Colorado. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good here, reporting from the Rocky Mountains with the birds chirping behind me and AC units a-blowing and all of that good stuff here. But you know what? We're running on low sleep. We might have traveled 1,000 miles to the middle part of the continental United States to come to a wedding on a Monday morning. But we're here. We're talking Steelers. And boy, oh boy, am I excited because it is training camp week, my brother. So things are good. I might be a little sleepy, but I'm good.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it is. It is wild for, and I don't know if the chat feels differently, but a Monday wedding is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. But in the same aspect, I expect pure chaos. You know what I mean? Like if people are showing up to a Monday wedding, it is not a typical Saturday. I'm going, you got to go to the wedding. If you're dedicated to be there on a Monday. And in that instance, I expect double the alcohol, double the fun, double the dancing, hopefully half the price for the bride and groom. And I hope you have a good time. What part of are you in Denver?
I'm actually in Aspen, good old Aspen, California, to quote the great Dumb and Dumber. So yeah, it's beautiful. Never been here before. But yeah, to double your pleasure, double your fun, dance forever on a Monday. So that's what I plan to do later. But right now it is actually 7 a.m, and I am trying not to wake up my other college roommate who is sharing a hotel room with me
Nice.
Because we are here for our other college roommate's wedding.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wife didn't come. She
wife couldn't get off work. Yeah.
She wasn't feeling a Monday wedding.
Yes. Do you know what's difficult is Monday's a work day, surprisingly, for most of the working world. So it was difficult for my wife to get off work. Craziness. Yeah.
Who would have thought? Well, we're very thankful that you are still here with us, bright and early, good old Aspen, Colorado. And with that, let's dive into training camp. It starts in 2 days. I'm very excited. We'll be out there. I'll be out there Wednesday for the beginning or for the arrival day for guys to show up. Me and Jacob will be there Thursday and Friday to begin training camp, coming to you live from St. Vincent College. Very excited for that one. But there is a ton to talk about, whether it's players to watch, bubble guys, roster competition, starting competitions. I mean, down to big names like Jalen Ramsey versus Darius Slay that we don't know how that's going to work out, but you have to dive into what could be when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their lineup in 2025. We're going to start with players to watch. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a bunch of them, whether it's guys that could shape the depth chart, guys that could make a splash on the roster, guys that could define whether or not this is a Super Bowl season or a complete bust for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll let you kick this one off. Give me 2-3 guys that you have on your radar heading into camp as players to watch.
Yeah, no, happy to kick it off here. And look, you could go with every single player who is going to show up at St. Vincent's later this week. But I'll start with who might be the most important player, for me at least, to get a grasp on and to take a look at. And that is one, Mr. Broderick Jones. And I think that is maybe the obvious pick. And I think offensive line has been a continuous conversation for you and I on this show. It's been a continuous conversation for everybody regarding the Steelers. But now I think it's going to come to the forefront a little bit more. And I think that we're going to see what Broderick Jones is made out of. So I'm excited to see how he is, seeing if he matches that same sort of intensity, that energy that we're all used to. That same personality is going to shine through, but does he take that next step? Is he ready to be an anchor on the left side of the line? So he's the first obvious one. I have, a couple other ones, but I want to kick it back to you real quick just to make sure there aren't any more starters like of the first 11 on both sides of the ball that I'm missing here.
Yeah, I mean, my big one's in the backfield, and we'll talk running backs a lot throughout the show, but Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson are two names to me that you'll talk Aaron Rodgers. He'll have all the lights and the cameras and everybody talking about him and eyes on him. You'll talk DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson because you're looking at it going, okay, these guys are the fun, exciting ones with question marks around them. Obviously, the newcomers will be there. And Broderick Jones is a great name because the offensive line, just like you said, defines this season. If the offensive line is bad, the Pittsburgh Steelers are bad. You're not going to be good with a bad offensive line. No one ever is. Ask Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Ask Ben Roethlisberger and the fact that he did everything he possibly could his last 2 years in the league to make the Pittsburgh Steelers a competitor and couldn't do it because of how bad the offensive line was. Broderick Jones does define a lot of this season. When you come to the backfield, I think that's what makes or breaks how good the Steelers offense can be, because you could throw the football all day and rely on your 41-year-old quarterback and Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, exciting. He's Aaron Rodgers and he's still a guy that I'd lean on and have faith in to be able to have a pretty productive season and to lead this group. But you look at the backfield, man, and you look at the offense and it's Jaylen Warren and it's Caleb Johnson who are going to carry the Pittsburgh Steelers offense in 2025. Jaylen's a dude that you will get to see plenty of in a different light because we saw him last year. We saw him the year before that as the number 2, the exciting guy that you knew was going to be behind Najee Harris. Now you're looking at it going, what does he do with the number 1? How exciting can he be? I think he's going to be the most electric name at camp. I'm going to make that bold prediction here. I think Jaylen Warren is the name that we are super fired up about 2-3 days into training camp because of how good he looks. And then I think Caleb Johnson, man, is going to be a fan favorite within 24 hours of training camp. I think that's all it's going to take is Caleb Johnson being out there and guys seeing him and be able to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy is fantastic. There is nothing that we lied about in terms of his vision, explosiveness, and natural ability. I mean, those are the two. When I'm out there, when I'm watching the offense, all eyes will be on Aaron Rodgers, obviously. But every time Jaylen and Caleb touch the football, I think it's time to pay a little bit closer attention to what they can do and how well they mesh, not just together, but with the offensive line, because that's going to define how good the offense is.
Yeah, I mean, I think by, the end of this first week of training camp here, we're going to be talking about this sort of dynamic duo that is Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson. It's going to take all of, several tweets of a backs on backers drill going through and Caleb Johnson running over one linebacker in a drill for it to set the entire Steelers nation ablaze. So I think that's a really good call out. I think that's something everybody's sort of paying attention to as camp opens. I want to also look to the defensive side of the ball. It's hard to not pick on everybody, but the cornerbacks, I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit more here, but I think the person that I am most excited to watch on the defensive side of the ball is Cole Holcomb. We've talked about him, a good bit about, the foolishness about suggesting him being a potential cut candidate. We've talked about the impact he will have if he's healthy. I'm so excited to see him fully in action, fully ready to contribute to the Steelers defense and to see how deep the middle linebacking group actually looks with a healthy and, quite frankly, starting level material Cole Holcomb involved as well.
Yeah, Cole Holcomb to me is a guy that people will label as a roster bubble guy. There's no chance. It is more so and we'll dive into it here shortly, are you going to be a starter in 2025 guy? Are you that good still after a devastating knee injury to be able to come out here and still be that guy? That's how I view Cole Holcomb. I'll toss another defensive guy at you that is the most obvious name possible when it comes to players to watch. Juan Thornhill. Who the hell is he? How good is he? Is he good enough? Is he terrible? I mean, these are all questions and we have zero answers to or an idea of. You look at Juan Thornhill. I mean, to be really honest, you're going to get one day of Juan Thornhill before the entire Pittsburgh Steelers army decides whether or not they are totally screwed at safety or if they're going to be okay. Juan Thornhill to me is the biggest name to watch on defense. I think hands down the biggest name to watch on defense in day one. At least I see that.
For sure. No, I think by the end of the week, the end of this first week here, there's going to be two major talking points, and I'm not sure which way it's going to go. And it's, again, running backs, as I said a moment ago, and is the secondary already screwed in Pittsburgh? And that will
yes.
literally just come down to one, series of like 7 shots or 7-on-7 or something like that, whatever. In the first couple of days of training camp, Juan Thornhill gives up some sort of touchdown, and all of a sudden we are talking about how the Omar Khan must go out and go get somebody, and why hasn't he already? And maybe there is another player that's already on the roster by the end of the week. It doesn't seem like it as it's a Monday morning here, but I think you are bang on here. Juan Thornhill, the secondary, everybody is looking to see, is this an elite secondary already with Jalen Ramsey involved and Joey Porter Jr. hopefully improved in year 3, or are we talking about this being a huge hole in the defense once again?
Yeah, if Juan Thornhill is not good, we're going to know pretty quickly. And then that's the worst part about it is you don't have there's no competition. It's just, okay, well, Omar Khan better get on the phone with literally everybody and see who he can bring to Pittsburgh, because if not, the Steelers are in trouble. The other way around, don't get fooled by it. Juan Thornhill has one good day. Maybe he's starter worthy. Maybe he is pretty good, but it still doesn't mean that Miles Killebrew and company are quality backups. You still got to go get somebody. I think that's where we could stand there. Let's shift our focus to sleepers, and then we'll go to bubble players, or we'll mix and match as we go through. Give me your sleepers to start training camp. Who you think maybe early, maybe late is about to be a fan favorite in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I start with Sebastian Castro out in the secondary, since we were just talking about it. I think there are two. I'll throw out Sebastian Castro as well as Dante Kent. I think the two most recent through the draft and undrafted free agent signings that have been added to the team have a huge opportunity here. I think, I've thought a lot about how complimentary Omar Khan was of Dante Kent. They talked about him like he was like a day 1 or day 2 pick, or early day 2 pick, with how much they liked him and his experience and his versatility. Omar Khan said similar things about Sebastian Castro after they signed him right when the draft ended. The two have a lot of versatility to offer. I'm not quite sure, not 100% confident where they fit exactly, or where they will be the most where their contributions will be best suited for the Steelers defense. But I think because there is so much questions right now, because there are so many roster spots to fill out and there are competitions everywhere in the secondary, I think Sebastian Castro plays with such a hard-nosed edge, and it was such a he's in the box, he was able to make one-on-one tackles. It fits perfectly with what the Steelers want their safeties to be doing most of the time. And I think Dante Kent's speed is going to be evident immediately when camp opens. So I think he will immediately jump into the conversation for slot cornerback, kick returner, punt returner, etc. So I'm excited to see those two players right off the bat and see if they've been making a mark, throughout the offseason in terms of exciting players coming into camp. And now I think they can do the same thing with putting, some tape on the field.
Yeah, I think Dante Kent Sebastian Castro to me is more iffy. I think we're excited about him, and I do think he's got more value than an undrafted guy, but you have a lot to prove if you're Sebastian Castro. Even if it's a limited role, like you have to really earn your place in Pittsburgh this season. Dante Kent to me has to do the same thing, but I think Dante Kent's got a ton of talent. Like I hate to be the guy, but I'm going to name my first bubble guy. My first 2 bubble guys, when we get there in a second, are going to be Beanie Bishop and Isaiah Loudermilk. Not Isaiah Loudermilk, DeMarvin Leal. I just see both of them as like guys that, they have a place on the roster, but if the roster's improved, they don't have a place on the roster. And that becomes a little bit more like, you don't draft Dante Kent for no reason. You didn't just draft Dante Kent because he was sitting there in the 7th round and you said, well, you never know. No, you drafted Dante Kent because you saw potential in him and you weren't totally sold on Beanie Bishop and company. And you went out and got Brandon Eccles. Like, he's competition for Beanie Bishop if you want him to be. Corey Trice can play on the inside if you really need him to be. It wasn't oh, we drafted him just so that he couldn't make the roster. Like, nah, I think there's more there, and I think you're going to see it. I think the same thing goes for DeMarvin Leal. Like, to me, DeMarvin Leal is already on the outside looking in, and he's got to really prove it. DeMarvin Leal's got a ton of talent, okay? But the problem is that he doesn't fit on the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line. He just doesn't have a place there. It's getting more and more crowded, and you can trade DeMarvin Leal. You're going to get a 6th-round pick for him, but you can trade DeMarvin Leal. And for anybody sitting around going, well, that's stupid. Why would you go? Because Kendrick Green went for a 5th-round pick. and when training camp nears its end, teams make trades to say, we need this position. Let's just go get somebody. And DeMarvin Leal will be a name that they see and they say, he's young enough and cheap enough. Screw it, he's a rental. And maybe we could make something work. Those are my 2 guys, I think, on the other side of that, on the bubble side of players.
Yeah, no, both of those players are on my bubble list as well. You took him off of it, but Isaiah Loudermilk is absolutely a bubble player for me. I don't know if you want to jump fully into the bubble players conversation.
Hit him.
But I mean, I think there's a much longer list compared to the sleepers. And I'm going to just peek over my list real quick. I have DeMarvin Leal. I have Isaiah Loudermilk, Beanie Bishop, James Pierre, Robert Woods, Connor Hayward, Logan Lee, Cordero Patterson.
Logan Lee is a good one. Cordero Patterson's an obvious one. Yeah. Logan Lee is a good one. Logan Lee is that's same boat.
Between him and Loudermilk, I mean, the defensive line is obviously improved vastly. Y.A. Black and Derek Harmon are taking 2 of these spots. Logan Lee and Isaiah Loudermilk were already battling for these depth roles, for these rotation spots in the front 7. It just became that much harder for both of those players. They both have upside. They both have schematic fits within the Steelers defense and what Tara Lawson and Mike Tomlin want to do. But I mean, Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black are clearly upgrades over both players. So they're going to have very impressive camps in order to make spots. So there's a lot of defensive tackles, defensive ends in the mix, and it's going to be that's the only reason why I might push back on the DeMarvin Leal like trade value, is because I think the Steelers have so many players jockeying for those defensive line positions that I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to cut someone who has NFL value.
Oh yeah, you're going to have to cut somebody. The only reason that guys get traded at training camp is because teams aren't willing to lose them in free agency. You know what I mean? Hey, we need this spot. We understand the Steelers are going to cut this guy. However, we still need we got to make sure that we can get him. We have to make sure that he can be ours. And again, I take it back to Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green was getting cut. The guy was playing fullback, okay? Fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Teams were not thinking he's going to be a fullback. They were thinking he's going to get cut, and that's what happens. That you will call because you're willing to give up whatever for whoever to make sure that you have that spot and that guy, and DeMarvin Leal is going to be one of those names. Cordero Patterson fits both sides here because he's a bubble player to me, and we're going to dive into position battles here in a moment, but he's a bubble player to me. On the other side of that, I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a fan favorite very soon in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to be a dude guys love to watch. He's shifty. He could return kicks. He could block well. He catches the football. Like, this dude knows what to do. Just got a Super Bowl ring with the Philadelphia Eagles, which I don't know if you saw them, but they're super sick and
wild.
The wings, like how we've done this, how far we've gone is so awesome with those Super Bowl rings. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a fan favorite relatively quickly in Pittsburgh. And I think on the other side of that, Cordero Patterson is going to be a guy that, like, he could have a good day and people are still going to be like, I think it's time to go, brother. I think it's time to let this one fly.
There's no, like, he is under the most scrutiny from maybe not the coaching staff, but from the fan base, right? Like, there is nobody who has a higher ceiling to surpass as far as training camp is concerned than Cordero Patterson. Like, everyone it's honestly a shame. I know you talk so well about him. I've not had the chance to meet him, so I hate to speak negatively about him as a person. This is not an indictment of him as a person at all, but everyone's like, why is this man still on the roster? And so he's going to show up to training camp and he might look excellent, in perfect shape, ready to contribute in multiple ways, be a sort of Swiss Army knife in this Arthur Smith offense. And I think no one will care at
No,
all.
no.
And it's just like, that's, I recognize that that's part of that's kind of a shame, because he is under so much scrutiny as training camp opens. But I just think the roster will become better if he's not on it.
That's so brutal. Yeah, I agree, though. I agree. I just think that you're wasting a roster spot for somebody else who has potential to fill it. And the Steelers have like excess in different areas. Plus, you don't need no team needs 4 running backs on the roster. You're not going to utilize 4 running backs. It just doesn't make sense. Let's dive into position battles here, because this is the big topic of conversation. This is where everything goes. We got a couple of them. Wide receiver, the last wide receiver, corner, inside linebacker, the final running back spot, and then defensive tackle. Let's start with wide receiver 2. You look at it right now, it is most likely Roman Wilson versus Calvin Austin versus potentially Robert Woods, I guess, as you glance at the roster. You have been on the side of they're not going to bring somebody in. Let's act as if they're not for the time being. If it comes down to it, who walks away wide receiver 2? What's the starting lineup for the Pittsburgh Steelers at wide receiver come week 1?
I believe it will be DK Metcalf, of course, as your number 1 on the outside, followed by number 19, Calvin Austin, lining up as your number 2 on the outside. I do think and stand by until something changes that this is the wide receiver group that will begin the season with the Steelers. Happy to be proven wrong, and happy whenever I am proven wrong to see what happens. But that being said, I do really think we are looking at a competition between Roman Wilson, who I think is going to come in determined and motivated and eager to prove that last year is now behind him and he's ready to contribute in a meaningful way. And the pressure is on Calvin Austin. The expectations have certainly risen for him. And I think he's going to respond accordingly. So for those reasons, I think he's going to be the number 2 when the season opens. How is that going to pan out? I don't know how confident I am still, as training camp is opening in a few days, but I do feel confident still in the belief that Calvin Austin is going to begin the season as the number 2 wide receiver. Do you still feeling differently?
I feel as if there will be a name we don't know, but I'll act as if there won't be. I think Calvin Austin's going to be the guy. Look, people will talk Calvin Austin's too small. Calvin Austin hasn't made the most of his opportunity. I think he's made more of his opportunity than he should have. I think he was part of the reason the Steelers traded George Pickens, was because they just looked at it and said, if worst case scenario, DK, Calvin, and Roman are our guys, we can be okay with that. I don't think Calvin Austin can play on the outside as well as guys like Deontay Johnson did, who is what the Steelers are looking for. They're looking for that ridiculous route runner. But I also think that if you put Roman on the inside and somehow Calvin got to the outside and just became a route runner, I think he could be way more than a deep threat guy. And I think if you put the ball in his hands, he can make some crazy plays happen. So I would say I agree with you. Calvin Austin's going to be the guy that walks away, quote unquote, wide receiver 2. I think the 3 of them are the starters this year, but I still think that they bring in somebody else. But I'll ask that, okay? If they sign a Gabe Davis, let's not act as if they trade, because if they trade for somebody, you're getting crazy with hypotheticals. Let's go with the easy one. I don't think it's Amari Cooper. I don't think he's a guy on their mind. Keenan Allen, I've heard, is not on the Steelers' mind. When it comes to Gabe Davis, he's obviously a guy that came in here. If he's healthy in a little while, maybe they make a move for him. If Gabe Davis is here, do you think there's a shot Gabe Davis is wide receiver 4 for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yes, 100%. I think we're not sure, even if he gets the clean bill of health, which I think you and I both expect him to get at some point, and that will likely lead to him signing with the Steelers. I think that is the most likely free agent path the Steelers will end up taking. I think even if that happens, there's a chance that he comes in and it turns into another situation where a veteran wide receiver who has had success with his previous organization comes to the Steelers and quickly sees his role diminish into nothing at all, maybe into something reduced compared to what he was used to getting. And the statistics follow and they plummet as well. So I really like Gabe Davis. I think he could be a really good fit. I think he would give Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson a very strong push regarding the competition, and I wouldn't be surprised one way or the other. He could easily be the number 2, but I do think that it's just as likely for him to come in and be the number 2 behind DK Metcalf as it is for him to come in and lose out on reps and snaps to Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin. And that is less a criticism of Gabe Davis, more of a suggestion and vote of confidence in Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. And certainly, an endorsement from the Steelers coaching staff has been given to those 2 players already as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like the Steelers, whenever they do make a move for a wide receiver, if it's not a big splashy name, if it is a Gabe Davis, you're coming in here jumping on a moving train. You want to know what happens to guys who jump on a moving train unless your name is Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? You don't get the starting job. It just doesn't seem to happen. The Steelers are going to hope and pray that Roman and Calvin are the guys and that they could go from there. And I agree. I think that if Gabe Davis jumps in here and 2 weeks or something, that they're just going to hope that he replaces Robert Woods, that he is a guy that can be a veteran who comes off the bench, who adds depth on the outside, but that they already have their 3. And I think that is a little bit better than last season. I really do. And I think the development of Calvin Austin alone and a better quarterback makes that group better than what they were a year ago. And I think Gabe Davis is an upgrade over what Van Jefferson would have been, but I don't think the Steelers would view him as a starting wide receiver next to DK Metcalf. I think they'd view him as wide receiver 4. When it comes to the other side of the wide receiver depth chart, that last wide receiver spot is certainly up for grabs. I believe they'll keep 5, maybe 6, but I have a hard time thinking it's going to be 6 simply because like you'd have to look at it and say, maybe a tight end's gone. Maybe you only keep 1 less offensive lineman, which I think is a dangerous game to be playing here. Maybe you don't keep Will Howard on the active roster, which I think is a dangerous game to be playing. I just look at it and say, most likely it's 5 wide receivers. Maybe there's 6. Maybe you feel differently. DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin are 3 of them. Ben Skoranek, you got to believe, is the other. Am I wrong there? You look at the rest of that, Rock Taylor, Robert Woods, a potential addition here. Where do you go? Who do you see fit? How do you see the final piece of this pie being laid out for the Steelers?
I think that Robert Woods is going to probably secure that last roster spot as a wide receiver. Ben Skoranek, I agree with you 100%. His importance to the special teams units is too vital to not have him on the roster. Excuse me. And, he can pitch in sometimes. He can come in and play a few offensive series. He is a big body. So when he does get on the field, there's, he's not totally inept or anything like that. But I agree with you that I think they're going to ride with 5 wide receivers. I think it would be to their detriment to carry 6 if that meant that they were going to have 1 less offensive lineman or one other position, or not have Will Howard on the active roster to carry a Rock Taylor, or to make sure you still have Robert Woods on the roster if you do sign someone or go get somebody from outside of the organization. So I think right now I think I see the 5 wide receivers being DK, Calvin Austin, Roman, Ben Skoranek, and Robert Woods, and then Robert Woods probably will get bumped out if an outside addition joins the roster. But yeah, I think Ben Skoranek is basically a lock, not to be an offensive contributor, but he will be one of the wide receivers listed when that first depth chart comes out.
Without question, dude. Ben Skoranek was the best player on the Steelers special teams last season. He signed a 2-year deal this offseason, which clear as day tells you he is on the roster in 2025. Like, he's a key piece to what the Steelers did last year. And let's not act like it's like, oh, you get rid of Ben Skoranek, it's whatever. It's not whatever. This dude came up with play after play, multiple fumble recoveries in 2025. Like, the Ben Skoranek helped the Steelers win games on special teams. You're going to keep him around. Plus, if you need him on offense, he could catch the football. He's done that multiple times. He could catch the football. I think I sit in the same boat. Like, it'll be Robert Woods right now. I don't think Rock Taylor is going to come out here and challenge much. Maybe we're surprised, pleasantly surprised. But what we saw in minicamp and OTAs, Rock Taylor was a non-factor, and that would need to change pretty significantly to cut out a guy like Robert Woods. But I also think that How Robert Woods looks will depend on how quickly and how aggressive the Steelers are at maybe adding a smaller name like the Gabe Davis to be able to say, hey, okay, we need somebody else as of right now. You look at inside linebackers, the next one. How do you see that room shaken out?
When you talk about like maybe having extra bodies, and again, for the same reason I wouldn't want to have, because I wouldn't want to carry like 6 wide receivers. I think it's because they have such a wealth of depth on the defensive side of the ball. You have Patrick Queen, you have Peyton Wilson, you have Cole Holcomb, you brought in Malik Harrison, you drafted Carson Bruner in the 7th round, and I understand 7th round pick, not going to come in and contribute immediately. The same thing can be said for the Dante Kent and Sebastian Castro, in terms of like keeping your expectations maybe in a more reasonable place. That being said, they have a lot of depth at the middle linebacking position. So I could see them carrying quote unquote 5 middle linebackers. I see Malik Harrison being someone
Yes.
who gets kind of put all over. He's going to probably line up at edge sometimes if they need to rotate him in there. He's going to be a special teamer. So I think he brings a lot of value in more than one place. I think Peyton Wilson is going to, by the end of the season, I've said this before, become basically the number 1 middle linebacker in Pittsburgh. And I think
Yep.
Patrick Queen and Cole Holcomb will still be playing important roles to support him. So I think they're going to have a lot of them. And so I could see 5 ILBs being on the 53-man roster. What says you, Mr. Noah?
No, I think it'll be 5-2, and I think Mark Robinson is the odd man out where we sit right now. It'll be Patrick Queen, Cole Holcomb, Peyton Wilson, Carson Bruner, and Malik Harrison. I'll make a little bit of a hot take here. I think Cole Holcomb gets a real shot at a starting job in 2025. I don't know if he becomes the starter, but I think he gets a real shot at being the starter in 2025. What are the odds he'd take advantage of it?
I think he would take advantage of it. I love what Cole Holcomb can bring. Those 8 games that he played in 2023 before his injury, he was such an effective player. I think the time that has passed and the concern that has developed regarding, how healthy is he, how explosive is he, which was a hallmark of his game, was him being an explosive downfield middle linebacker.
Yep.
The concern is fair. I think he is, he has worked so hard. He has not played in a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. I think he is going to show that when healthy, he is still that same player. And I think because of it, he will certainly take advantage of the opportunity if he gets it. The biggest problem I see is not if Holcomb can take advantage of it, but between Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, who's going to give him that opportunity to get onto the field?
That's a great question. And I think it might be Peyton Wilson. I think Peyton Wilson might need a little bit more time. I have very high expectations for Peyton Wilson, but I don't think Peyton Wilson was a 3-down linebacker a year ago. I think he had some tackling issues. You need to adjust that. I could see Cole Holcomb taking advantage of that opportunity. I would predict it's Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, but I do think that Cole Holcomb's going to get some real shot to make a name for himself. And once we get out there, we'll see very quickly how back Cole Holcomb actually is for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then there's the big one here, which is the final running back spot. If they keep 4, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. If they keep 4 running backs this season, I think Trey Sermon gets the edge over Cordero Patterson. The Steelers loved that guy coming out of college. Loved him. I was shocked he didn't go to Pittsburgh. I think he's younger. He doesn't add much, but he can play special teams. Cordero's not going to be a kick returner this year. There's just no shot. It's going to be Kenneth Gainwell. You have too many other options. I would say Trey Sermon edges out Cordero Patterson as that 4th running back if they keep 4, which I think is a possibility.
I hate it. I will be hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I don't want them to keep 4 running backs. I don't think it's going to be the best use of their 53-man roster, but I think Trey Sermon has a real shot here. Again, it is, you cannot doubt how much the Steelers did really like him coming out of Ohio State. They love their Ohio State players. They love those types of guys. if he comes in here and he does exactly, he does that sort of like Jonathan Ward type of thing last year, where you're like, all right, he can maybe come in, take a couple carries. If there's injury troubles, we can, use him sparingly when needed. I'm all for that. I'm also for it if it means, a certain someone doesn't make the roster. But I think if they keep 4 running backs, I'm going to get my ass kicked by Cordero.
One day, dude. One day it is going to happen, dude.
It's going to be awful. Pray for me, y'all. But I think
every time I make social clips for this podcast, I get, because I just plug them into an AI thing, and then it gives me like 40 of them, and 25 of them are Jacob shitting all over Cordero Patterson, and me going, all right, can't use that one, can't use that one. This one puts Jacob's life at danger. Can't use that
sorry.
One. All right, Cordero Patterson, where's he at?
I think this might be the hot take to match your hot take. I think if they keep 4 running backs, Cordero Patterson is 100% the 4th running back that they keep.
100%. That is a large number. That
Yep.
is a very large number. I don't know. I could see your point there. I just, at some point, you have to understand what makes your roster worse and better. And you've 4 tight ends that you're going to try to keep. Maybe you try to keep DJ Thomas Jones. You're already limiting yourself at wide receiver. You have so many edge rushers, so many inside linebackers, 400 corners that we're about to talk about here in a second. Like, you just can't. At some point, you got to say the dude who's going to get 4 snaps this season shouldn't be on the roster. The guy who can't play a kick or punt coverage shouldn't be on the roster. That's how I view, you know what I mean? If you were more than a kick returner, great, but you have no value outside of being a kick returner. And to me, that's where it gets rough. I mean, we'll see, dude. We're giving away a Cordero Patterson jersey if he makes the roster. I'm just going to say it right now.
I'll literally buy it myself.
Yeah, we'll
for sure. Like, that's someone save this and hold me to it. I'll buy it myself if he makes the roster.
If you're still alive.
If he doesn't kick my ass.
If you are able to see through the punch wounds in your eyes. We will get it. All right, let's end it with the big one here, corner. Mm-hmm. You can look at the bottom of the depth chart. We'll talk about both bottom and top. Do you think there's going to be a real competition between Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay on the outside next to Joey Porter Jr.? Do you think Joey Porter Jr. could possibly be involved in this corner competition? And then on the other side of that, I mean, you got Corey Trice, Brandon Eccles, James Pierre, Beanie Bishop, and Dante Kent, who walks out of there the winners to round out the depth chart.
I think the more that I have been stewing over the Steelers defense and what this might look like when, week 1 starts, I think Jalen Ramsey might be who matches up on the outside opposite of Joey Porter Jr., which, means Darius Slay might not be on the field whenever the quote unquote starters are on the field for the Steelers defense. Now, this is very dependent on what Juan Thornhill looks like, very dependent on if the Justin Simmons clamors come to fruition for the Steelers.
Yes.
But that being said, I think Jalen Ramsey, you bring him in here, you can't just have him back in the safety spot unless that is something that day one, on Wednesday or Thursday when we're up there, they're like, you know what, this is what I'm here to do, is to be the starting safety. Then we can be like, okay, that makes complete sense. Their search for the starting safety and safety depth is sort of over. But until that happens, Jalen Ramsey is your best cornerback. He has to be on the outside, number 1, number 2 on the depth chart until a position change happens or until something else happens. I just saw that too.
Someone would die. For those of you listening, the quote, I want a Jacob Cordero Patterson interview during training camp.
Request it.
Yep. I would love to see it. I'll get the interview of Jacob walking up to Cordero Patterson from a far distance, very zoomed in. That is what I will do. I agree with you. Like, I don't know what the Steelers look at. In my opinion, the best position for the Pittsburgh Steelers is to have Jalen Ramsey kind of be the utility piece, but it also hurts them because Jalen Ramsey, in my eyes, is your second best corner outside of Joey Porter Jr. And you maybe better than Joey Porter Jr. right now, but you're not going to sit Joey Porter. Like, he's the future of the position. but you want Jalen to be able to play on the inside. You want Jalen to be able to play a little bit of safety. You want Jalen to play on the outside. Darius Slay's just a backup on the outside. At that point, what do you do with Corey Trice? Because if Jalen's the starter on the outside and Darius Slay is the backup on the outside, Corey Trice is the fourth on the outside, then where do you go with Brandon Echols? There's just who I think is a quality player, to be honest. I just think that leads to more questions than any other position so far. But I see where you're coming from. My guess is Joey Porter, Darius Slay are the outside guys. Jalen Ramsey's on the inside, and then Jalen moves all over the place. And then when you're in your base package, Jalen is on the outside and Joey Porter Jr. is on the outside and Darius Slay comes off the field. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think that will be best. And I think, the thing is, like, I don't know if I'm interested in Jalen Ramsey becoming the utility player in order to make sure Brandon Echols and Corey Trice can contribute in some more meaningful way in 2025. Agreed. Not that that's what you were saying there, but like if the plan is for him to become that utility man, if it is like the Rod Woodson effect or whatever, where they're like, we're transitioning him to safety to prolong his career and find more ways to utilize him, then that makes complete sense, right? Then you have a positional hole for Brandon Echols, Corey Trice, Beanie Bishop, etc. to battle for. But if you have your base package where you have Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr. on the outside, Darius Slay's off the field, you have Deshaun Elliott and maybe Juan Thornhill as your safeties, I mean, like that feels like a best case scenario to me. And then you have someone like a Corey Trice rounding it out, and maybe Brandon Echols, because you can kick one of them to the inside in case you need him. But I think I would still be okay with keeping those five, but I'm not okay with creating a larger positional battle for an increased role. And by doing so, moving Jalen Ramsey around. If it's the plan, okay. If it is a reaction to getting the sort of depth pieces an opportunity, not okay with it.
Yeah, spot on. You know what I mean? Spot on. And last year, different. Corey Trice is still viewed as like the future. You don't know what's going to happen. The Steelers have clearly shifted from there to say, Corey Trice there. Great. But if Corey Trice didn't make the roster, which I expect him to, but if he didn't make the roster this season, I wouldn't be stunned. I would say it would have to mean Beanie Bishop, Dante Kent, and Brandon Echols look very good. But if you are comfortable with those guys and Corey Trice is 3 years deep and unhealthy, like it wouldn't stun me to say we moved on from a 7th round pick that we like, but maybe doesn't hold the value that he held a year ago.
For sure. Yeah. If Corey Trice has any injury troubles, unfortunately, he's done. Because there is just too much, I don't want to say talent, but there are too many players battling or in competition for these depth spots. And I love Corey Trice's potential. How can you not love the physicality, the physical tools, the long reach? Like, he just seems like one of those shutdown corners on the outside. And then you just can't ever see it come to fruition on the field consistently. So if that happens again in camp, yeah, then I would expect a Beanie Bishop or, I would expect a Dante Kent to like really have a great chance of making the roster. But yeah, until that happens, I think Corey Trice is a pretty solid lock to make this team. They have wanted him to be an impact player for so long. I think he's going to keep getting opportunities until they simply can't give him any more.
I agree. All right. That's the breakdown of the position battles. Let's start diving into all your questions. On the other side of this break, we'll start answering them. Toss them in the chat. We will be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
Alrighty, shout out to all of our members. Shout out to our super chatters. Toss your questions in the chat. What are we laughing at? What are we at? I'm
gonna get my ass kicked.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, dude.
It's
gonna happen. It's all right. We've all had moments. Shout out Robert.
Remember me like this.
Shout out Robert Spillane. Let's start with good old Carl Spackler with a good one this morning. Morning, everybody. This week, I celebrate 10 years of sobriety. If anyone here may be struggling, keep fighting. It's worth it. Had to highlight this one. Carl, my man, big congratulations from me, Jacob, and everybody else. What a way to start out a Monday here. Proud of you. Keep it trucking.
Thank you for sharing that, Carl, too. That takes a lot of strength and vulnerability to share. So I appreciate your words, and I hope that it inspires somebody else either in the chat or watching it. You're the man, Carl.
You are the man, Carl. Shout out. Chris here. Guys, where did we stand with signing Simmons? Has Khan had any contact with him yet? If we can get Simmons to replace Minka for cheap, then do it. I haven't heard that they've reached out to a safety yet. I'm sure that they've had some conversations. Things have been quiet. I'll be honest with you, at the same time that a lot of things are quiet right now. There's not really, like, the Steelers are moving in silence in a lot of these deals. Nobody saw the TJ trade or signing coming as quickly as it did. The Steelers are kind of just doing their thing right now. There aren't many people in the building at the same time. So while plans are happening and things are going down, the Steelers just got back there. Everybody is now back in the building, which means now you'll hear more and more and more. But I have not heard yet that the Steelers have been looking for a safety. I would not be surprised if they are, though. Would not be surprised at all.
As we know, whenever the direction we start going down, we think we are confidently going down that road. We think we know the directions and where we're heading. Omar Khan's already at another place. He's already zigged when we all think he's going to zag. So, the safety's not happening, right? So then something must be happening soon.
Something must be happening. Eddie, the first here. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Shout out my guy. That'll be cool. Patterson talking to Jacob. Marlon, my Minka jersey is in storage. I need 2 new ones, home and away. Give me some names. If you were going to buy a jersey today, who are you going to buy?
The most recent one I bought was Keanu Benton.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Dude,
it's a very good one.
He's a dog. How can you not? I think Deshaun Elliott might be a good one on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side of the ball, give our linemen some love, man. Get Zach Frazier up in there.
Zach Frazier, best jersey possible. Best jersey possible is Zach Frazier. Who doesn't love a center? Who doesn't love a dude who just kicks ass on the field? I mean, he's the future. He's not going anywhere. Unless an injury happens, Zach Frazier ain't leaving. Ever. He's going to spend his entire career in the city of Pittsburgh, 120 miles away from where he grew up. So shout out to Zach Frazier. That would be mine too. Finish it off with a good TJ one, maybe. That would be great. Deshaun Elliott would be my other one.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Cordero Patterson.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming immediately. I knew it was coming. Heard of practice. This season would have been better for Hard Knocks. Oh, for sure. For sure. The Steelers, I mean, they met. Look at Russ, fun, great, awesome. Aaron Rodgers, dude, all summer long. Yeah, that would have been the best we could have possibly had. But the Steelers are super thankful that didn't happen. And I'm also pissed because Christian Kuntz didn't get enough airtime. And that guy is hands down the funniest player on the team without question.
They hated that whole experience, right?
To be honest, I was told by a lot of players that they did such a good job that you couldn't even tell they were there. Like the cameras in the meetings and stuff are just like cameras on the wall. Like it's not like a production company in there. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. The media hated them because there's 75 NFL Network people there trying to clog up interviews. And then they like look at you like, why aren't you answering questions? And I'm like, I can't see the guy, dude. I'm 14 cameras deep here. Like, what do you want me to ask? Like, so I wasn't a fan. The team enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, I think they got extra smiles because I wasn't a fan. So shout out, dude. Shout out to Hard Knocks. They do it well.
For them.
Yeah, they do it well. They do it well. Mike Tomlin was a big fan. Trust me. Big fan.
Sweet.
Yeah. Jay Kula, will offensive line depth be addressed soon? What if Jones doesn't work out? And so here's the thing, and we've preached this all offseason. We'll continue to preach it heading into camp here. I don't think Jacob believes that the Steelers are going to add to their offensive line. They have the group that they feel confident in. We are less confident about it. I think you need another tackle that doesn't need to be able to compete with Broderick Jones, but can be there as a security blanket if Broderick Jones doesn't work out. I don't think they're going to get one. I think Calvin Anderson is their backup swing tackle. Spencer Anderson, who's a quality swing guard, with Ryan McCollum, who's also a quality swing guard / center. He played really well when called upon last season. I think that's where they're leaning. And then tackles a concern, but I don't expect them to address it at all unless things go drastically wrong at training camp.
Agreed. And to answer your question, what happens if Jones doesn't work out? Their left side is Swiss cheese.
Swiss
it might
cheese.
already be that, but
yeah,
if he doesn't work out, Aaron Rodgers' blind side is going to be a welcomed place for edge rushers.
I agree. I think at some point, if things go bad, they will add, but right now I don't see it happening. Cody, will Najee be back next year? Update on Cole. You weren't here for this era of all Steelers talk, but there was a time from about week 1 of the NFL season until about week 18 of the NFL season where every single day, the 2 most asked questions were is Najee Harris was going to come back. And then I would get yelled at for saying Najee is not going to come back. And an update on Cole Holcomb, man. Two most famous names in all Steelers talk history. Easy without question. Should have retired. We should actually begin a Hall of Fame for all Steelers talk. And Najee Harris and Cole Holcomb will kick it off. Cordell Patterson is inductee number 3 for sure. He's got to leave the team first, but for
sure.
Chris, guys, one thing that really worries me is that Tomlin doesn't like to throw in the middle of the field. We need to change this mindset to have success. I agree. There were those reports last year that it was him and not Russ and not Justin. And I believe it with the Justin thing. I believe Mike said, I don't trust Justin Fields. You are not going to lose games for us. Why Russ isn't here. You are not thrown over the middle of the field. I knew that was the case with Mitch Trubisky. I knew it was. They were very apparent. You are not allowed to throw interceptions. You are not allowed to change plays at the line of scrimmage. If you do either of them, the games are over and your time as a Pittsburgh Steelers starter is done. It was done anyways. Then they tried to do the same thing with Kenny. Then they tried to do the same thing with Justin. Here's the difference. You tell Aaron Rodgers not to throw in the middle of the field, he's going to look at you and tell you to F off. He's going to be like, look, dude, I've been doing this as long as you have, buddy. I know how to play football. I'm throwing where I want to throw and where open receivers are. So let me do my thing. I think that's what changes this season.
That is, that's your only hope, Obi-Wan, because how else are they going to change this dreaded drought of them not throwing over the middle of the field? They have the pieces for it. You got to do it. So hopefully Aaron Rodgers comes in here and his stubbornness in that regard and his unwillingness to just sort of do what he's told. If it doesn't fit what he thinks will work best for the offense, maybe it works for Calvin Austin's favor. Maybe it works in DK Metcalf's favor. Maybe it works in the Steelers' offense's favor. Who knows?
I agree. Chris here. One more, guys. If the Steelers win the Super Bowl, then we drafted number 32 to move up for a franchise quarterback. Will it cost us 3 years, number 1, to move up? Thoughts? No, it won't. It'll cost next year, the year after, and some change. And that's what it would cost. Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs jumped 11 spots. They gave up a first and a second, I believe, to go get him. It's not as expensive. If you're trying to get up to pick 2 or 3, yes. But the Steelers aren't trying to get up to pick 2 or 3. They're trying to get up to pick 5 to 7. And I read some big, long column yesterday. I forget who it was by, saying, oh, the Giants couldn't move up, blah, blah, blah. And okay. They still drafted in the middle of that. And you want to know who they didn't take? A quarterback. They took Malik Neighbors instead of a quarterback and then tried to move back up. There are going to be teams who don't want a quarterback, who say, okay, we're here, we're the Patriots, and we're picking 8th. We don't need a quarterback. You want to know what we could use? 2 first-round picks. That would be great. Okay, here's a trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers so that you guys could go and get your quarterback. It all depends on where you are, but no, it won't cost 3, I don't believe. I think it'll cost 2, and I think the Steelers are willing to pay 2. Do you feel different?
No, I don't. I think the reason the Giants can't do it is because tell me the GM's name again, Joe something?
Yeah, Shine or something.
Yeah,
Gene.
It's because he's just awful. I don't think it's because you cannot get up in the draft and you can't climb up into the draft if you want to. Teams do it every year and they're really good at it and they always get steals. If anyone watched Hard Knocks last year,
yeah, true.
You might already know this conclusion, but the fact that he's still the GM of the Giants is
Oh, crazy.
Crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
And the fact that they so I think that's more, that's a cautionary tale of how maybe to not approach moving up in the draft. Don't think it would require the Steelers to part with that much draft capital to do the same thing and accomplish the same thing. And as we've kind of learned from Omar Khan and his trade history, he won't get burned as far as giving up something to get what he wants. He's usually the one who is making out on the other side of that deal.
I agree. Cody Silva here. I donate this $5 to Jacob. Having a morning beer. PS, too bad your old lady ain't there. Can't see her reaction. Shotgunning a beer at 9 a.m. Love that. It's actually 7 a.m. and it's a Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke because Jacob's a Coke guy, dude. As soon as it came out, dude, as soon as you took a sip, I was like, there's Jacob's morning coffee there, morning Diet Coke. And then it clicked to me that it is 7:15 in the morning and you're rocking a Diet Coke there. Diet Coke.
I don't talk like a proud man about the things I do and the way I am, but it is me, I also can't do that because I saw my wife commented earlier during the chat. So she's probably watching this and I love you so much. You are my best friend,
dude. Does she have a crazy name or is it just?
No. Her name's Tori.
I didn't see it. Shout out to Tori, man. Shout out. Should have came on the show, dude. Should have jumped on. We should have.
That'd be great. We should have like a.
Nah, Jillian's not coming on the show, dude. Jillian won't even let me post pictures on Twitter. She ain't about it. She ain't about that life. She got one creepy comment one time, and then it was all over.
We're not women, so yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I get creepy comments, dude. You don't get creepy comments? You got to check your DMs more. They're coming. Don't even worry. Don't even worry. When I answer people 6 months late on a DM, just know that it's not because I hate you. I love you very much. It's that I'm so scared to open my DMs. It is a very terrifying place.
I know they've already been kind of weird.
I'll tell you the best story. I know we're running late today, but I'll tell you the best story ever. And my wife loves her. I hope she's doing well, dude. I'm a little nervous that she may have passed away. Rest easy if she did. There was a lady, her name was Nancy, dude. For almost 4 years of my life, every single morning around 5 a.m., she would tweet at me a link to one of the stories I wrote and then just call me an idiot. She would say, Noah, you're an idiot. And Jillian loved her. My wife, she was my wife's favorite human in the world. And I'm not going to lie, I grew such a deep connection to this woman. She followed 2 people, me and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and she just made sure that the 2 people that followed her back knew that I sucked. And I was so appreciative. So appreciative. Shout out Nancy, man.
Shout out Nancy, man. Dude, whatever you're doing, you're the best.
Macaroni salad. Guys, what will the show schedule look like during camp? Guessing 4 p.m. won't be doable. Yes. The Steelers are going afternoons this year, so practice ends at 4 o'clock. That's going to make things a little bit difficult for us. We're going to test the waters at 5 p.m. We're kind of feel like 5 is going to be a good place for us. Give us time to do interviews, go back, get what needs to be done, and then set up and do the pod. It might be, some days might be 5:15. Some days might be more like 5:30, but we're going to try for 5 o'clock. It kind of just depends on how hectic things are that day after practice. We should have a pretty good baseline after the first 2 or 3 days. Of how things are going. That'll start Thursday. Wednesday, it'll be typical 4 p.m. show. And then Thursday, we're going to play it by ear. And we'll see, where we go from there. But that'll also include a ton of player interviews and stuff like that. So I do appreciate it, which we'll jump onto this one. American Steel. Noah, any chance we could get some walkover videos at camp or maybe some players sitting down for a 5-minute one-on-one interview? We will have one-on-one interviews. It's tough to say, hey, will you come sit by me and we'll record something and set this whole thing up? But we will get one-on-one interviews. There'll be a ton of them. And then the walkover, I'll have a walkover Wednesday. I'll try to be doing walkovers as much as possible there. Just kind of got to play it by ear. You know what I mean? It is, when camp starts, it is as chaos can be. And I am so excited for it. And then we just kind of see what we can make happen. And as I say every single day, we just keep it trucking, friends. We just keep it trucking. But for the pod schedule, we'll be bumping it to 5 for Tuesdays, or for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting this Thursday, 5-ish. Sam here. Are you excited to see Caleb Johnson get humbled in backs on backers? I will say that is his weakest part of his game is pass blocking. What's your prediction on the first guy that Mike Tomlin puts up against Caleb Johnson?
Cole Holcomb.
Cole Holcomb's a good one. I could see Cole Holcomb for sure. I could see Peyton Wilson for sure. Kind of like a prove yourself to both ends guys. Last year, Landon Roberts would just be the guy that he was just like, you want to die? Landon. John Lovett, man. That guy never had a shot. That guy didn't even get a shot. Mike Tomlin killed that guy. It was awful.
Landon, him and Nancy.
Dude, it went a Landon. Shout out Nancy. It went a Landon, Mark Roberts, a Landon Roberts. Back to back to back. He didn't let him come off the field. John Levitt never played another snap for the Pittsburgh Steelers ever. It was brutal. Immediately went into concussion protocol. Awful. Rocky Mountain oyster salad. What? Unbelievable.
Come on.
Breakout player on each side of the ball. I'm gonna go Calvin Austin on the offensive side of the ball. I think Calvin's due for a 6, 7, 800 plus yard season. And on the defensive side of the ball, that's a good question. I think I'm going to go Peyton Wilson. I feel pretty confident Peyton Wilson's 100 plus tackle guy this season.
Wow. I love the Peyton Wilson prediction. I think breakout player, I'll stick with my jerseys. Keanu Benton on the defensive side of the ball. I would love to see, even with all of this emphasis on the defensive line and fortifying it and improving it, I would love to see Keanu Benton still take another step and become, maybe finish a couple of those QB pressures that he was getting, finish some of those tackles in the backfield that he was able to start but not finish all the time. I would love to see him kind of take that next step and him fully break out and be that Cam Hayward-esque sort of dominant force on the defensive line as well. Offensive side of the ball, I really want this to happen more than a prediction, but I really want Pat Freiermuth to become like a 1,000 yard receiver for a season. I would just, I think if something like that happens, or if Jonnu Smith is the player that happens to, like, we're not talking about this wide receiver 2 issue anymore. The offense is definitely moving in a very smooth pattern.
We all heard it, dude. We all heard it.
Brought to you by Share Travel Mics. Picks up all your voices everywhere. So I would love Freiermuth to be that true breakout player. Like he's had good seasons. He's had flashes of brilliance, of excellence, of being a red zone threat. But a 1,000 yard season would really put him over the edge. A true breakout. Let's look for that.
Yeah, I would love it. Big Jello hot dog salad. We have 12 picks in next year's draft. What positions will we focus on, and how many picks will we actually make? Also, Jacob, frozen peas help for black eyes.
So awesome. As a nerd, guess who got his ass kicked when he was a kid? Rhymes with Jacob.
Rhymes with Jacob. 12 picks. I think the Steelers target. My early picks for the Pittsburgh Steelers are quarterback, wide receiver, defensive tackle, and then guard. Those are where I think the Steelers are going to highlight. I think corners after that, but Jalen Ramsey changed a lot of things for me. Safety will obviously be there, but safeties are a weird position where, like, unless there's a Malachi Starks or something crazy, you're not going to jump the gun for one. 12 picks. I would imagine you're giving up 4 of those before the NFL draft actually starts. So I would say 8 to start is my guess, could give or take some. And then those are my positions that I think the Steelers target.
Yeah, I'd like to see them hang on to a couple more of those. But I think quarterback, I disagree a little bit. I think cornerback is going to still be, or secondary in general, I'll put under the umbrella, is going to be a big part of their draft plans for next year. And then after that, offensive line, wide receiver, linebacker, specifically on the edge as well. So yeah, those are my priorities.
You think they go edge linebacker?
Yeah, I think just because they gave TJ Watt the bag and they gave him $3 trillion doesn't mean that they have to ignore the fact that he is, 30 and that eventually you're going to have to need another starter unless they're so set on, Jack Sawyer and Nick Herbig and all of that stuff. And those two players in particular when camp opens, which I like both of them. I think Sawyer could definitely be a future starter. I wrote about that recently.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of time and development, not and I think Nick Herbig is just like so explosive and athletic. It's hard to not see him becoming more of an impact player at some point. I just don't know if it can happen with TJ Watt and Alex Smith continuing to eat snaps in front of him. But yeah, I think edge is going to become more of a future concern, sure, but I think it's something that Omar Khan has in the back of his head.
Okay. I like that. I think a bold prediction on that one, but an interesting take for sure. Jacob, do you get carded by an alcohol? I get carded by an alcohol.
Yeah. PA, they don't take chances, at least not in our neck of the woods. They like my wife and I get carded all the time. My wife and I went to dinner one time, and I do have a baby face, especially when I don't have any facial hair. I think my wife looks certainly of age. We went to a restaurant one time in Pittsburgh that I won't name, and she had forgotten her license, and the waitress would not serve her a drink, so I ordered the drink, and she was not happy with me and my wife that she also drank the drink because she didn't have her license on her. And I'm like,
that's a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's not on the waitress. She's doing what she has to do, but I'm like, we're married, we're here to get the child right. So like, what do you think's happening here? Yeah.
That's hilarious. Enigma After Dark. Lots of names, including coaches in need of redemption this year. Who will be most likely to achieve it? Also, who is most likely not to achieve it? Number 84. Redemption this year. My big bet's on Joey Porter Jr. That's the guy that, to me, sophomore slumps happen, but I think that kid's got the best mentors possible, the best veteran additions around him possible, and a ton of natural ability. I would say Joey Porter, to me, is a guy who's in for one massive bounce back year. On the other side of it, I hate to say this, but Broderick's the biggest concern to me. Broderick's the one that, if he didn't pull it off, I don't know if I'd be that surprised. I'd be bummed out. I like Broderick Jones, but I don't think I'd be that surprised.
Yeah, I think that is a totally fair take. I think either side of the coin is understandable at this point and not totally unpredictable. I'm thinking about the defensive and offensive coordinators of the Steelers and who is more likely to have a better sort of rebound year. And to be honest, I think it's probably Terrell Austin. And I think the defense that might be the hot take here. I know, the offense and the offensive line, all of that is so important.
Yeah.
I think Arthur Smith is in a lot of ways trying to coach for another head coaching gig. Doesn't sound that, crazy or out of left field of a take to suggest. But I think the defense, they've added to it. They have invested into it. They are expected to be elite in top 5 again. So I think if they can achieve it, Terrell Austin goes from having a shaky sort of, he's on rocky ground, so to speak, to being, a top-notch defensive coordinator again. And I think that might be more likely to happen than the offense becoming a top 10 offense in 2025.
I love that, dude. That's a great take. I love TA, man. He's one of the nicest dudes alive, and I think he's so smart. I think he's a scapegoat a lot of the times, but I love where you're going with that. Papaya Salad, over under 5 fights at camp. Does Cam get in another scuffle? Cam loves fighting people at training camp. That's like his thing. Mostly rookies. He's just a guy that's always talking smack. Like, he's always talking smack. I think they're, I would go over under 5 minimum. I'm going way over. You got TJ on a new deal. Cam's back. You got new defensive linemen, young offensive linemen, which means that, Mason McCormick's getting slapped in the face every day. Every single day. Troy Fontana's getting smacked in the face every day by Cam and TJ and these guys. I would say over under. I would go over by Jalen versus DK Metcalf might be 5 fights alone.
Yeah. I hope, and I hope it's the over. I think I'm a person who does not see any issues with camp fights. Like, this is 100 of the most alpha male thinking men pumped with testosterone, trying to battle it out in the most extreme ways. Like emotions boil over, anger takes the precedent, and fights happen. It's also a team building exercise. You know what I mean? Like when you talk about Cam Hayward, like he's gonna slap all these offensive linemen in the mouth because he's kind of like like the mama dog teaching the puppies, like, this is, hey, don't you get out of line. This is what you do. You know what I mean? You have to follow the order here, and you have to kind of fall into line with what the Steelers are trying to do. It's a whole process. So if it takes a little bit of some extracurricular activities, as some call it, to get that accomplished, then I'm all for it. So let's say 6 or 7 fights, and it leads to good things, though. It's not because this team is split and in factions by the time the first preseason game rolls around. It's because his team is dedicated to winning, and that sort of attitude and determination and commitment can boil over sometimes.
I agree. James Farrow. Hey, no, any chance for a vlog when you go to the Ireland game? Potentially, definitely potentially. Got some cool things that I'm really working on right now. It's just life is hectic, man. We you can ask Jacob, dude, our days are insane, but that would be super cool, especially with my wife there, would be able to kind of vlog it for me, which I think would be really neat. So I would say this is a very cool idea that I will definitely put on the table and see if we could make it work. People would have to be interested, though. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is everybody asks for cool videos, and then we put out cool videos, and then they go right down the stinker, man. And I could just be drinking Guinness with the boys, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I think this would be super cool, and I think I'd have a good time doing it. So it's a great idea, James, that I will talk to my wife about and see if she could be my cameraman for a week out in Dublin. Big Jello hot dog salad. Xavier Nwankpa and Aaron Graves, both Iowa boys that I think we could target for sure. Thoughts? I'm going to be honest. I wrote them down. I don't know either of these names. Do you?
I do not. What I will say as a general statement is Iowa defense has been producing some very impactful players in the NFL. So worth a deeper look. I appreciate the suggestion. Big Jello hot dog salad.
Big Jello hot dog salad. Yeah, I will look into them for sure, and get you an answer on these guys. Sometimes the people that you guys suggest are incredible. So and quite sleepers. So very excited to check them out for sure. Rocky Mountain Oyster Salad, favorite road stadium to travel to. Oh, this is tough, but Buffalo is a great one. You got to take the travel into consideration. Like getting to Gillette Stadium might be the worst stadium to get to in the world. Green Bay is not much better. Miami sucks, dude. Miami sucks. Everybody's like, oh, Miami's awesome. No, Miami sucks, dude. Going to that stadium's awful. You can't get dropped off within like a mile of it. It's terrible. Excited to check out Chicago this year. Kansas City's also another great one. There's some really cool ones. Oh, LA's wild too. But if I had to pick, I think Buffalo, like locally, to travel up there. I will never go to Buffalo again because, trapped there for a month and a half. Me and Stephen Thompson, shout out. But I would say Buffalo's up there. Cleveland's a cool one too. M&T Bank Stadium sucks. Waste of time. Buffalo, Green Bay's up there for sure too, I would say. New throwback jerseys are pretty rough. I kind of like them. Did you go on Twitter yet and see and check them out?
I'm looking I like those old school. I like the throwback jersey. I don't like the beige pants on first look, but it might just be like the lighting and the video package that the Steelers put out. It might look better like on the field or whatever, but those helmets, that gold uniform is sick. Beige pants, not a fan.
I'm not a fan. I agree. I'm never a big beige pants fan. I think the Denver Broncos have one of the coolest throwback uniforms ever that they ruined with beige pants. But I think I kind of like the off 1933 look. I'm a fan. NBA Bibby, with the new cap space, what wide receiver and or corner do you see us bringing in? I would guess Justin Simmons, Jordan Whitehead, Marcus Williams, and Julian Blackmon are the names to watch where we currently sit. I think safety is the place that the Pittsburgh Steelers will look to add with their available cap space.
Yeah, I'm still looking at Justin Simmons as the favorite to come in. But yeah, I think safety is what's going to be what the cap space is spent on.
You keep it trucking here as the truck in Jacob's. Is that a garbage truck? What's going on over there?
The lovely inn I'm staying at is doing some refurbishments for your pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for all future guests to attend and to
At,
make
at
Jacob's
8:20 in the morning.
Hell, yeah, on a Monday. It's a work day, Noah. This is when people work.
Denver's a wild place, man. Weddings and construction at 8:20 in the morning on a Monday.
It's incredible.
Great times.
You're welcome for all these background sounds, everybody.
Look at what's hilarious is as you did that, nothing. You heard it the whole time, and as you did that, not a single noise, not one single noise. Actually, no. And Jacob, one of the top 5 storylines or things to watch in training camp this year. I'll rattle off 3. I'll let you do the last 2 here. Big one is Aaron Rodgers. How good is Aaron Rodgers, and how quickly can he connect to these wide receivers without question? Number 2 is the offensive line. Offensive line sucks. The Pittsburgh Steelers suck. End of story. No way to work around it. Name me a team that's won a Super Bowl with a bad offensive line, and I'll tell you that you're lying to me. And number 3, I think it's the defense. Like, how elite does this defense look? Because they need to be elite. And on paper, that Luke Kuechly says they're the best team defense in the NFL. Are they? We're going to see. Those are my big 3.
Yeah, I'll follow it up with, does Mike Tomlin's job actually become under fire and jeopardy at all, or was that just another off season of rumor mill speculations that tends to happen? I think that, this season has a ton of pressure on it, and if the results go terribly, which I'm not suggesting, or even in that mindset of thinking that is what's going to happen, but if it goes terribly, I think we are looking at some wild things. And lastly, I think the biggest storyline is what it's less to do with the Steelers, but what franchise quarterbacks emerge, and what does the NCAA look like, and which top quarterbacks are going to emerge in the 2026 draft, and how interested are the Steelers in those players? And that will also be dictated by, the number 1 storyline that Noah mentioned here. How good is Aaron Rodgers, and how deep does this team go because of it?
I love it. Maddie, are there any players starting on the PUP list? I don't believe so. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Thursday. They won't hold that press conference or they won't make that announcement until Mike Tomlin is set to speak. But I do not believe any players will be starting on the PUP list. Marlon Lewis, has Mike Tomlin given the ingredients to the hot dog?
I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
Never will. We never will. Marlon Lewis, do you expect any moves to be made before Wednesday? The answer to this one is no. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a sudden one, but I have not heard anything, and therefore I'm staying quiet. Again, the Steelers are so quiet right now that anything could happen. But unless I hear something, I'm not gonna. I have a hard time sitting here saying like, oh, you never know. Like, you do never know. But I only want to report to you guys things I hear, and I have not heard anything to this point where we sit.
Yeah, I'm expecting nothing over this week in terms of player acquisitions or signings.
Yeah,
excuse me.
Yeah. Tortellini salad. Who would you guys want to replace Project Jones with if he stinks this season? Would Steelers draft again or go for a vet? I think they draft again. I would think tackle goes real high on their list, and it'd be either a right or a left. They'd bounce Troy Fautanu over maybe and go with that. But I think they want to build this line through the draft. That's the best way to build a line, and I think that's the way that they would go unless some big names on the market. But I do, if I had to guess, it would be through the NFL draft, and it would bump up to like maybe number 2 on the priority list this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, if Broderick Jones struggles, I mean, I think it becomes just as important as having your franchise quarterback. Franchise quarterback edges it out, a little bit. That's what wins the Super Bowl at the end of the day. But having an offensive tackle that your quarterback trusts and performs as elite as said quarterback is a great and quick recipe to winning in the playoffs. And so I think if Broderick Jones falters, they're going to have to look to the draft to find that sort of running mate for their future franchise quarterback. Again, I'm hopeful Broderick Jones can pull it together. I want him to be successful very, very badly. And so I hope that we don't have to have that question, but offensive line will become a huge priority if either tackle position struggles this year.
Yes. Pittsburgh Hornets, welcome to Colorado. Jacob, Denver Biscuit Company is a good try. I agree, dude. This place is fantastic. I don't know how close it is to you, or if there is one near you, or if you have time in your 24 hours in Colorado. But this place is good. Their breakfast slaps. So
incredible. Thank you
try
for the rec. Appreciate y'all.
No doubt about it. Maddie here. This one is for Jacob. What's your prediction for the post-credit scene in Fantastic Four?
Oh, Maddie, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see that. I hope my wife will see that movie with me. I think she will. She didn't see Superman with me, but I respect it. I think the post-credit scene will be some sort of continuation of spoiler alert if you didn't see the last Marvel movie that I'm forgetting, but we saw how the Fantastic Four might have entered into, or maybe the Fantastic Four entered into our current MCU universe. I think we might see a little bit of what happened right before that, in between where the Fantastic Four movie ends. Either way, I'm excited. I'm going to see it once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times if my schedule allows. We'll see. I'm pumped.
Godzilla. Quick question, guys. I heard that Dante Kent is in danger of getting cut. Is that true, or am I just reading a bunch of lies? I don't think, I mean, it's too early to say anybody's in danger of getting cut, but Dante Kent is fighting an uphill battle for sure. You know, he is a 7th round pick who has a lot of depth in front of him, and he's got to prove that he's capable of surpassing that depth, and to the point where if he's not on the team, he's going to get claimed by somebody else. Because if you are good enough to say, ooh, this guy's got potential, but, you know, we're not going to waste a roster spot on him, then he's a practice squad guy who might end up being somewhere else. If you are good enough to say, if we release you, you're going to go somewhere else because you're good enough to go somewhere else, we can't take that risk. That's how he ends up in Pittsburgh this season. But I would say Dante Kent is definitely teetering more towards being cut right now, being on the outside than the inside of the roster bubble.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know I spoke highly of him earlier in the episode, and I believe in him, but he is a 7th round pick. Like, you can't, the road to not only becoming an impact player, but making the roster is like an incredibly steep and uphill journey for him. So
yes,
in danger, I think he was in danger of being cut the moment he was drafted as a 7th round pick. So, you know, he has a hard hill to climb. I think he can do it, but I think it's most likely that he will end up on like a practice squad unless what Noah was saying is true and there's a lot of interest around him outside of the Steelers.
All right, a couple more here as we close it out in a wild Monday episode. Enigma After Dark still predicting 10-11 wins this season. Yeah, my prediction has always included Aaron Rodgers and company, and where we stand today, I still think it's a 10-11 win season for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I think 11 and a half feels like the over-under to look at right now until, you know, we see how preseason goes and maybe week 1 goes. But I think they could be a 12-win team realistically if they put it all together. But 10-11 wins for sure.
Yeah. All right. David, what's the most likely situation for Joey Porter's contract after this year? I want his jersey, but haven't had the best luck with jersey. Pickens, you've picked some rough ones, my friend. Pickens, Devin Bush, Chase Claypool, Juju, etc. You've definitely picked some rough ones. This year plays a massive role into it. I mean, right now the outlook is Joey Porter Jr. has got to have a good year for the Steelers to want to extend him. If he doesn't have a good year, why would you extend him? So this year's going into it, the Steelers expect him to have a good year and expect him to be here long term. But this is a make or break season for any 3rd round pick or for any 3rd year guy. Like, you have to either play well or you're not going to get a contract extension after the season. And I think Joey's riding that line. Unfortunately, I would guess, I would guess he gets one, but I would wait on buying a jersey for sure.
Yeah, I think what's most likely is he has a rebound season and signs a contract extension next summer. That is, you know, my bold prediction, or maybe the likeliest prediction that I'm just kind of speaking about that we all agree on. But I think he's going to have a better year, and I think we're going to be talking about how much money do the Steelers pay him next summer. But yeah, don't buy the jersey yet. Just buy Cordero's.
Yeah. Anti-Pasta with the added depth to the tight end room. Do you think Connor gets cut, and do you think Darnell Washington could be used as a swing tackle as well as a tight end 3? He won't be used as a swing tackle. That rumor has been up there forever. Mike Tomlin has continued to shut it down. I think he'd be fantastic, but the Steelers aren't going to use him there. I think Connor Hayward is a cut candidate. I don't think he's likely to get cut. I think Darnell Washington potentially getting traded might fit the bill a little bit more where we sit today.
Do you see JJ Galbraith as being at
No.
all a part of this conversation? Fair
No.
enough.
No, I think he's a practice squad guy. You know, like you bring him to the practice squad because he's good, but like if he doesn't make the roster, who cares? You know, like the Steelers aren't going to miss him. They have enough guys. Like Connor Hayward's got great hands. I don't think the Connor's bad enough to be a cut candidate, but I do think that the Steelers have an overload of tight ends and none of them are phenomenal in the back half. So they're going to most likely consider their options and then see what happens there. Chris, is it true Miami may cut Tyreek Hill? Should we be in? Yeah, if they cut him for sure, go get him immediately. Wouldn't trade for him at all, but I'd go get a cut Tyreek Hill.
I wouldn't, but Steelers might. Yeah, I don't have anything productive about why, but I wouldn't want him on the Steelers.
I do think he's a very big drama-filled wide receiver that the Steelers just moved on from a drama-filled wide receiver, and that would hurt things depending on the price tag. Some guys you can't pass up. Broccoli Salad here. Good afternoon from Germany. I was not able to get any of the lives last week, but I'm here today. Noah, I got my first ever hole in one last Monday. Have you ever gotten one? First off, congrats, my guy. That is awesome. I've never gotten one. I've come very close a couple of times, but everybody's come close a couple of times. I've never gotten one. It's a feat that I will always chase, probably never accomplish. Shout out my friend. And we'll finish it off
salad
with tortellini salad here. Are you guys going to go to the Steelers-Jets game? I'm in Jersey, so I can't miss out on that. We haven't made a decision on the Jets game just yet. It's traveling with that one's a little bit weird. We also have a teammate who's part of our team who's in Jersey. Makes a little bit more sense to send him. So still guessing on that one. I think it's going to be a great game, though. Revenge game on both sides, and I'm very, very excited for it. All right, guys. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out on Facebook or on YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back tomorrow, normal time. Like I said, tomorrow and Wednesday will be normal. And then Thursday, we will kick things off on the camp schedule. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.